Well, hello guys, welcome to another video with Zimaleta. Today I would like to talk about starters and the issues that you might come across, starting issues, and some of these different type of starters that exist out there, and what you need to do to possibly fix your problem where it's a starting issue. So what we're looking here is two starters. To my left, this is the original Bosh starter. To my right, this is original Chinese starter. There's no name on it, so Chinese name is the only name it has. So this starter here cost about $95. I actually purchased this on the site that's called let me think of it, partsgeek.com. I just remembered. And this is a starter that came out of my parts printer. It was a good starter. It was starting everything perfectly. So I'm gonna get back to that. So basically, I went ahead and found another starter, which was this one. This is my original Bosh starter from my Sprinter. It actually looks really good. Like, it does not look old at all. Like, I don't know why. I didn't clean it or nothing, but that's what it looks like. I pulled the starter out when my van had 650,000 miles. I still kept it because with Sprinter problems that's starting sometimes it's not actually the starter that's causing it. So here's another Bosh starter that I replaced later on. There's a problem with it. I'm going to tell you what it is. And here's a Chinese starter. So this starter is what I purchased from partsgeek.com. It's a Chinese starter. It is actually bigger than they are. Like, if you look at them side by side, it's got a bigger housing on it. The solenoid portion is about the same. It's a little bit longer here, but when you look at these attachments here, they look about the same. So I'm going to do some tests in a later video with the starters and stuff to try to help better diagnose this type of issue that you may be having and that I was having. So let's talk about the situation here. This starter right here on top, original Bosh starter, it's 650,000 miles on my Sprinter. So here was the issue. I was driving like somewhere in the mountains, and I had this as a spare just in case. I always have extra parts on hand when I'm on the road. Most likely end up never using them. But it was a good idea for me to actually buy this part. $95, it's not a huge price to pay for a starter. So as I was driving the mountains, I needed to go to a parts store for something that I was looking for. I'm not sure what it is. It's not that important. But I came to the parking lot, I parked. I actually always back in. I think that's a pretty good idea for you guys to back in. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are doing that anyways. It's because if you ever need to be towed or something, it's gonna be so much easier, even though it doesn't really matter for the tow guys. So I went inside a store, I bought something, I come out, I go inside my van, and I try to start it, and all I hear is a click. If you guys have heard this issue before, your van is not starting, it's not a good thing to hear, because you always want your van to be starting, and so you want to properly diagnose your vehicle. So immediately you're gonna think, is it a bad starter? I probably need a new starter. So since that happened to me, that's exactly what I thought. And I'm like, okay, that's no problem. I got a starter. All it is a couple bolts to remove it from the transmission housing. And we got a number 10 here, and we got a number 13 type of key here. This is a little bit bigger connected there, so that's a positive, that's a negative. So I was kind of like, okay, brand new starter. I put it on my van, and what do you know? Click, nothing's happening. So then I'm like thinking, what's going on? Is this another bad starter? Like, is this solenoid maybe not good, and that solenoid not good? Because it's just a click. Because I mean, what else could be wrong? If it was just spinning and spinning and spinning, it would not turn your van on. I mean, it would be one thing, because the solenoid's kicking things in, and it's starting to spin, but it's not starting. Maybe it's just not enough contact or something. But this is kind of a confusing situation. So what I end up doing is, I'm thinking, okay, I wonder if I keep clicking this thing, if it's gonna start my van. I always like to experiment with stuff like this before, just throwing parts at it. So I do click, click, click. I think after about 9 or 10 clicks, my van started, okay? So after that, I'm like, interesting, let me cut it off again and start it back up. So I cut it off again. What do you know? Click, click. So it would take anywhere from 10, sometimes a little bit more clicks, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes like 7 clicks, and it start things up. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe a bad ground somewhere, maybe loose wire. So I go checking my negative wire. It was a good negative wire, but I went ahead and just bought another negative wire, you know, for the battery. I think it cost like $10 or something. So I installed a new negative cable directly from Mercedes, not some kind of, you know, like off the shelf, even though it would work just fine. But directly from Mercedes, it fits really good, and you don't have to really, you know, worry about adjusting anything. So I put a new negative wire. Guess what? Nothing else is happening. It's just does little clicks. I checked every other ground wire. You know, it's not helping it. So I'm thinking, okay, what about you know, the actual starter ignition switch, the electronic ignition switch part? So I bought that from a Mercedes dealer. That wasn't helping things. I bought the actual starter relay. I end up not using it. I still have the starter relay. I end up not using it because I didn't think that was the issue. So here's what I done. I actually took one of the cables from one of my power inverters, and I took the black negative cable from that. It already had 2 ends of it. So here's what I did. I basically disconnected where the negative cable goes to the actual body. I cleaned the body up a little bit. It was not rusted or anything, but what I ended up doing, I actually greased it up. I used some regular grease that you could get. You know, mine was like the pink stuff. So I greased it up, and I added to the firewall of the Sprinter. I removed, you know, all those wires. I've removed them, and I added another negative cable to it. So what I decided to do, instead of running it directly to the battery, I ran it to the engine. So anywhere on the engine would be fine. You know, some kind of aluminum piece would be fine. So I found a place to install it right there below. I'm just going to show you where it is. Okay, this is the head I have for a later video. I'm going to be showing you guys, you know, there's a head and there's an oil pan on top of it. But this is basically your intake manifold. And this is where the EGR goes. And there is some places over here. You could see like there's a place there, you know, there's a place there, like, and you know, at some portions, like over here, it actually attaches. That would not be really accessible. But this portion here had like some kind of like a little tubing that was attached to it. Like it just holds I think like one of the fuel lines. So I ended up removing that little holder and actually added a negative cable directly on here. And guess what? It fixed the starting issue, you know. So some of you might be thinking, you know, yeah, starting issue was caused by a negative wire. Well, possibly, but there's also could be like other things that's going on. So back to this here. So I was driving already, like, you know, for a while, and of course, you know, I put some miles on it. So I put approximately, I'd say 170,000 miles on this Chinese starter alone. And usually it started, but I gotta say, sometimes it did a little click, okay? 1 or 2 clicks, it was doing it. But when I actually bought a new engine at 844,000 miles, so I had the starter for at least you know, a couple 100,000 miles already on my van at that point, okay? I bought a new engine. The Mercedes installed a new engine on my van. You know, and what they done is, it was kind of interesting. They actually installed my negative cable just like the way I had it. It was just kind of funny because I'm thinking, this is an extra piece. Don't they know it really doesn't belong there, you know, that negative cable? But I guess, you know, they wanted to respect what I had underneath, and they went ahead and attached it to the engine exactly where I had it, you know, as they removed it, which was kind of cool. So I left it there in place too. I'm thinking, you know, it's not really hurting anything, you know, so I left it. So then I was like thinking, interesting, you know, what about if I disconnect that negative wire from the engine that the Mercedes installed? Will it start again, you know? So I disconnected it, and, you know, I had it disconnected. It started right up, no problem. So, like, that negative wire was really not helping things anymore, even though the same starter, okay? So I decided, you know, to leave that wire alone. I'm thinking, okay, I might just, you know, add like another battery to it or something. I'm gonna like, you know, like something like as an auxiliary. So there was no reason for me to really remove that negative wire. After all, it's a negative wire, you know. So I drove another like around like 100, maybe like 80,000 miles on the starter, and that's already like a lot of miles for the Chinese starter. I was actually told by somebody, you know, that it would not work. They're not good starters. They could mess up your gear up. Possibly, I don't know. I did not have that issue. You know, there's a good chance that maybe some of them do. You know, I never had it, so I'm not going to tell you that it does or doesn't. It just never happened to me. And besides, you know, it working properly and not working, that's the only thing that would be like in my concern. So as we progress further, at about, like I told you, I put another like 180,000 miles on it. I started getting a little click again. So it just goes click. Okay, so, you know, 2-3 clicks, it starts right up. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll go ahead and put that negative cable back in the, you know, engine. Where I was showing you where that intake manifold was. I put it back. And guess what? That's still the same. Click, you know, like nothing's really happening, and then 2-3 clicks it happens. Sometimes, you know, it started to be longer. Like it already started to be like maybe like 6 or 7 clicks. So that was kind of interesting, you know, because I'm thinking, you know, what's going on here, you know? So what I decided to do, I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave the starter alone. I'm going to diagnose, you know, it completely, because I still had a brand new electronic ignition switch, because I ended up not using, since it was not really fixing things. I go ahead and removed it from the vehicle. So I always had a spare ignition switch. I have a spare relay, like I was telling you guys, and a spare starter, you know, just to mention a few. So I went ahead and did this, and this is in one of my videos. Okay, I replaced a fuse panel box. The actual, you know, underneath the steering column, there's a fuse panel box. When I replaced that, nothing. It did not solve anything. So I replaced a starter ignition switch. It did not solve anything. And by the way, the fuse panel was from a parts printer. Since it was starting fine before I removed things, and this starter was on it, like it was kicking in fine, you know. So I said, you know, I already done everything. I have replaced a negative cable on the battery again. I have added additional cable to, you know, to the intake manifold, which was another cable, the same thickness, because I had a 2000 watt power inverter, and I just used the wire from that, you know, on the engine, which was kind of cool, you know. It bolted right up, you know. So here's what I was looking at. This was my problem, the starter right here. Possibly solenoid is going bad on it. Who knows? I mean, you know, it could be bad contact. You know, maybe just contacts need to be cleaned. But, you know, that's all, you know, guesswork. And you really don't want to be removing it, putting it on again, removing it, taking it. You know, it's just a lot of work, you know, involved. So my answer was to the question is, you know, this is another Bosh starter from my parts printer. I'll go ahead and put this on the van and see if it works. So I put this on the van, and guess what? It started right up. I removed the negative battery cable from the engine, started right up. So there was really no need for me to actually have the negative cable on, you know, mounted to the intake manifold, even though it's not in the way, it's not hurting things. So I just, you know, removed it. You know, I may end up putting it back or something eventually. But I put the starter up, and it was starting my van excellent all this time. I only had it about maybe under for 30,000 miles. That's it. As long as I was not really messing with this part, it was causing no problems. But since I went ahead and I needed to remove the transmission, you need to pull your starter out. And this is kind of, you know, interesting sometimes. You know, sometimes you make a problem, you know, that you don't have before just by going in there and messing with it, you know. So usually removing starter is pretty easy. You know, you got a number 13 bolt here and you got a number 10 here. As you could tell, it's not there. You could maybe see it on here. I'm sorry if my video is kind of washed out. There's just so much light right now. But anyways, let me see if I could get a better view, because when I'm looking at this, it just looks like it's washed out a little bit. Okay, I think this is kind of better. I walked on the other side and actually just a little bit in the shadow here. I'm not sure if it's going to improve things, but what I wanted to kind of show you is this broken piece right there. As you could tell, it is moving right there, and if you zoom in, you could see like where the negative wire was. It was right there, and it's supposed to look like that. So this solenoid here just broke apart, you know, and usually they're on there pretty solid, you know. I didn't do nothing to break it, you know. The bolt was not too tight or nothing, you know. It was just, you know, it was fine. So it just broke off. Why did it broke off? You know, who knows? You just really don't think you're gonna run into this type of issue. So when I removed it, I thought, you know, obviously I will not be able to use the solenoid. So I kind of thought, you know, is it possible to repair the solenoid? So, you know, you look at it, and over here to the back there is some bolts, and I like to sometimes repair things, you know, make them last, you know, just for the heck of it, you know, because, you know, it is kind of like fun, you know, to like understand these type of things and just fix something instead of just, you know, keep throwing money at it. You know, you could use that money for something else that might be a little bit more better for you guys. But anyways, it seems like there's just 3 bolts for me to disconnect, and then we have another bolt. Well, on this one, it's kind of weird here. Yeah, this is what I wanted to show you right here. You see this bolt right here? This bolt is for that little cable there. Just disconnect that little bolt and disconnect those 3 bolts in the back, and you could just remove that solenoid. So this is the test I'm going to be doing in one of my videos. I'm going to take this old Bosh starter, I'm going to remove its solenoid, and I replace it on here. Okay, if the vent starts up, you know, excellent. If it doesn't start up, I will remove, and I will be adding this solenoid to it, you know, the Chinese one, and we'll see if that causes it to start up. I think that's just going to be an interesting experiment, experiment that I will do, and you guys don't have to do this experiment, you know, by yourself. You could just see, you know, like me do it, and maybe if you have this issue, you could try, you know, a couple different things. You know, if you don't have a working starter, you know, maybe you have 2 starters. Maybe you have an old Bosh starter and you got a new Bosh starter, or maybe you just got 2 of them. One of them has a bad solenoid, the other one maybe has bad brushes. So you could take the one with bad brushes, remove the solenoid from that, and replace the solenoid over here that's a bad one. You know, and then, you know, there you go. You made the 1 starter out of 2, and you was able to use all the parts. And then you could take the old solenoid, put on a bad starter, and now you have an extra part. If you ever need to buy a starter and they charge you a core, now you get yourself a core, you know, starter. So this concludes this video. Be on the lookout, you know, for the video that actually will be doing starter testing. I'm going to name it something along those lines, but you could always find my videos in the playlist. I will add this to the Sprinter playlist, so you could find it there. And next video, I want to talk about alternators, actually, like charging and like not charging, those type of problems. Because you guys will actually need to hear that video, because you might be thinking you got a bad alternator, but you really don't. And I'm going to explain it in the next video. So thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe my videos if you like my videos. And if you do subscribe and you want me to subscribe back, just let me know you subscribe, and I will always subscribe back. You need to let me know, because I really don't look at, you know, like who unsubscribes or subscribes, because most of you guys, you know, hide yourself, and you don't share publicly who you subscribe to, and that's fine. You know, it's okay. It doesn't really matter. I'll subscribe to anybody that subscribes to me, just as a respect type of thing. And you know, I will watch some of your content if you know, ask me to, because I do watch YouTube videos, and some stuff I learned from you guys, and we could all share what we know, and it would be a pretty nice resource. I don't mind, you know, feel free. You could post on my you know, chat. You could post things like, you know, your videos on there, you know, what you did. I would like to see it, you know, because I'm constantly learning, and I want to know about the Sprinter as much as possible. It just really helps all of us, and then maybe I could cover that topic, maybe mention you somewhere in one of my videos, and who knows, you might get more views, and we could probably do that to each other. But anyways, you know, that all gonna be in later videos. Thank you guys so much. Take care. God bless you. Good luck with your Sprinter.